Hello and welcome, friends. For this series, I plan to introduce you to some interesting, bizarre, and obscure internet finds. This first installment has 3 websites that are all fascinating and disturbing in their own ways. Despite the length of this video, we're not going to be deep diving these topics today. I plan to introduce you to these rabbit holes, take you inside, and explore, but only a little, to give you a taste of what they have in store for you. However, this should give you a good idea of the possibilities. I will tell you what I think may or may not be happening, as well as what others say about these sites. And if you find them interesting, there's plenty more for you to explore within. For our first entry, let's go to superbad.com. Superbad.com is nothing short of a fever dream. When I entered superbad.com, I was met with what looked like an early internet HTML page with boxed repeating images of the Great Gazoo from the Flintstones that slowly faded out, leaving behind small, unclickable, abstract pixel art. The only text on the page was repeating uppercase A's, followed by a desktop icon of a computer. Under it, either some encrypted writing or some form of Mandarin, maybe, and that was the only clickable object on the whole page. With the fact that I couldn't tell you the first thing about Mandarin, I have no idea what it may say, even if it is Mandarin. Either way, right from the start, it is perplexing and slightly off-putting. And I think that's the best way to describe superbad.com as a whole. According to what I've seen others say online, this website was created in 1997 by an artist by the name of Ben Benjamin as an evolving art installation. With that said, still others claim that there is an unsolved ARG lying just beneath the surface of this absurdity that is superbad.com. To be fair to those who believe that this is an ARG, when I came across this oddity, I decided not to read first and instead to just visit the site. I found myself clicking through hundreds of web pages, each more chaotic and bizarre than the previous. However, what kept me going was what seemed to be some sort of storyline. There seems to be a few characters scattered throughout the hundreds of pages, and these characters have notes that are written back and forth between the characters, or at times a character may have a story that seems to be told throughout multiple different pages and then kind of ties back into others, but you will have to just keep clicking on to find the rest of the story. And that's what kept me going. No one seems to know for sure what is going on here, outside the original intended purpose, of course, of the showcase of off-putting digital art and web design. I won't claim to know for sure. However, I will give you an example of that potential portion of a possible ARG that I have found. Here are a few of the characters that I mentioned before that are brought up and referenced a few times. There's Uncle Jay, Aunt Viv, Mr. Hubris, and who I will call B-Boy, or possibly Johnny. These characters are brought to us in the form of notes or odd clickable events. Uncle Jay, for example, has his own page at superbad.com/1/turkey/turkey. It reads as follows. Dear kids, your Aunt Viv and I would both like to apologize for the incident which occurred on Thanksgiving this year. We both felt strongly about the turkey neck, but certainly those feelings are not as strong as the feelings for the members of our family. Please accept our apologies. I'm sure next year will be much better. Love, Uncle Jay. If you get this page, then the only clickable portion to take you away is Aunt Viv's name, which is actually a hyperlink. And that takes you to superbad.com/1/turkey/Viv. where you can find a message from Aunt Viv, and that message reads, Dear everyone, I'm sorry I can't write to each of you individually, but our family counselor said it was important to get this letter out to everyone here as quickly as possible. It's sad that we have to send a message like this. We realize that almost all of you who gave money to little Jay gave it in good faith. But please, do not loan Jay Jr. any more money. Jay Jr. wasn't trying to take advantage of anyone. He just wanted to be certain that he was getting enough foods from the meat group. The meat that can be returned will be. The meat that has already gone bad, Jay Jr. will pay for out of his own pocket. All of your money will be returned. Sincerely, Viv. Within this dialogue, there are 2 clickable hyperlinks. One is the entire second paragraph. It takes you to a page titled superbad.com/1/heaven/heaven. This is where things can get kind of grim. There is a text at the top that reads, This picture of me was taken when I was in heaven. It was fun. I was bathed in a golden light the whole time. They gave me this suit to wear, but I had to give it back the same day. Next to the text is an unclickable image of a man with a warped 5 head, seemingly reading a Bible. Below the text there are 3 clickable links, Superbee, Man, and The Accident. If you're me, then you skip everything else there and you go straight to The Accident. Honestly, I didn't know at the time, because it was my first time on the page, if I was going to be able to get back to this page or if I was going to get sent down another series of rabbit holes. so I went straight for the good stuff. Oddly, the accident takes you to a blurry background image. Over it is what looks like the outline of a person, almost like a crime scene, like a chalk drawing, made from tiny orange-yellow dots, like bees. Below the outline is a yellow line that leads to 5 larger, clickable bees in different orientations. Each of these bees will take you to a different place. Sticking to the main storyline as much as we can, though, if you find the correct bee, you will find an image of a small boy in a beekeeper's outfit who asks you, "Have you met the bees?" Clicking on him, he gets upset. The bees, which were facing him, then turn away from him. And he says, "Don't click on me, it upsets the bees." If you click on him again, the bees disappear, and he says, "Now you've done it, the bees have left." Alternately, when you first enter the page, if you click on the bee to the right, you get this. A close-up of the right bee, with a small bee to its left, and text that reads, "Beatrice B," in bold text, and barely readable against the background. It says, "Stung this man." And clicking on the left bee, you get this alternated version of the bees, and the text says, "William B," with smaller text that reads, "A bee on a mission. Billy B monitors the house guest." If you click on through the boy in the beekeeper outfit, you'll be taken to a page that reads, "Here are some places that bees like to go," with 2 links which are partially written upside down. The links are Messages from Uncle J, which takes us back to the message that we read earlier from Uncle J, and the other is Mr. Hubris. Clicking on Mr. Hubris takes us to this message that says, "A few words from Mr. Hubris. Pull up a chair. Hubris is here. Listen, right now, I'd tell you about how I almost won the Daytona 500. But when I told your father, he said never to discuss it with you. Because I respect your father, the story will have to wait. So your father, your Uncle Jay, and I were having a few drinks the other night. God bless your Uncle Jay. He serves a fine glass of whiskey. Anyways, your father and I were knocking a few of those back, and I was entertaining the both of them, reliving great moments from my racing days. As usual, I had them both on the edge of their seats, when the alcohol started making your father drowsy. I should tell you at this point that I mean no disrespect towards your father in telling you this, but he passed out cold on the concrete floor of your garage. In fact, he fell out of his folding chair, and his head somehow ended up sort of beneath his handsome '68 Corvette. Your Uncle Jay and I may have been concerned, but frankly, your father does this a lot. Again, I respect the man, and I know you respect him equally, if not more so. Jay thought it would be kind of funny to dress your father up in your mother's clothes. I have to admit that Jay sure was right about that one. It was funny. It was damn funny. Unfortunately, we did get oil stains on some of her garments that your mother has apparently been unable to remove, and your father hasn't been willing to explain exactly how they got there. Well, your Uncle Jay also found your mother's camera and took several pictures of your father in your mother's green stretch pants. Mind you, they look fine on your mother. I often admire them on her, but on your father, he's a large man, you know. Well, there should be some pictures coming back relating to this incident. I should hope that you, respecting your father as I know you do, would be interested in disposing of those pictures and the negatives, preferably before your mother has a chance to look at them. I would hope that you would not even be interested in looking at the pictures yourself, except to ensure that you're throwing away the pictures of your father and perhaps Jay and myself, but not that of your family's recent trip to Tahoe. Signed, Wayne L. Hubris. It's absolutely bizarre. And as much as I did follow the rest of that string, I can tell you that most of it just loops back into the other messages made from the other characters. For the sake of this video, we're going to go back to superbad.com/1/heaven/heaven. Having already clicked on the accident, the link titled Man takes us to this simple page. I'm just going to say what jumped to my mind as soon as I saw this page. It looks like pixel dot art of a creepy uncle. Maybe this is Uncle Jay. The larger dots under the images are the only links, and each of them always takes you back to the accident. Since we've already been there, let's see what you get when you click on Super B. Clicking on Super B, you will get this story. Fair warning, if you didn't already think that this website was super weird, and everything that I've already read was super weird, then this one might just send you over the top. And it is going to involve a child, so if that sort of thing bothers you, then don't say you weren't warned. Anyways, on to the story. Bees. Swarming, buzzing bees. Tickling, temperamental bees. Bees with pointy, painful stingers. The boy poured honey down his back and shook his buttocks left to right. The naked, crazy boy. He passed by the beehives, jogging, not running, taking his sweet, innocent time, toward the white, perfumey clover field. The bees rose in a fuzzy brown boil, filtered out of their hive, cleaved the air like an arrow, aiming for honey-dripped, bare-bummed Johnny. Little Johnny boy smiled broad and white, his feet advancing toward the clover, tossing his hips from side to side, breathless voice issuing forth, "Bees! Bzzz!" Little Johnny boy slipped a finger between his perspiring crack, taking away honey as if from the stale edges of a white bread sandwich. Johnny loved the bees, almost as much as the sticky sweet clinging of honey that formed and hung like stalactites from his perineum, dripping drops. The bees closed in, thousands of bees, their murmuring, buzzing chorus titillating little Johnny boy, stingers angry and shining in the sun, quivering mad. Johnny jogged toward the clover field, licking his finger of the sweet, sweaty honey. Honey buns, Johnny thought, and laughed until he fell, rolling over the start of the clover. Honey buns, thought Johnny, and he laughed and giggled, a smile playing over his bare, freckled puss. Bees, Johnny exclaimed, as a fuzzy, buzzing cloud converged on little Johnny's honey-sticky ass. The sun rolled in golden fury, and hours later, when it had turned dark red and sunset swollen, little Johnny boy lay stiff and puffy, pink and happy, dead, stinking sweet. This story is uncomfortably weird and gross on so many different levels, but it's also sad. Part of me wants to say that this story is about how innocent young Johnny didn't see the folly in what he was joyfully messing around with, and he paid a terrible price. But on the other hand, some of the chosen wordage and seemingly sexualized nature of the story that ends up with a dead boy at the end, maybe there is something more sinister happening in the storyline, with creepy uncles and friends and odd family events and a dead child. When I first found this piece of information, to be fair to the ARG crowd, I was pretty sold that this was an ARG. But in the end, who knows? I certainly won't claim to know for sure. This could be a collective of stories that semi-tie in, but are meant to just be odd one-offs that happen to be relative to each other. Or this could be the tip of a larger, incredible narrative with lots of hidden meaning and links scattered across the whole random website that you just get lucky to find. As I said before, we aren't going to deep dive here, and we have other oddities to navigate as well. But in closing, digital art installation or unsolved ARG, either way, superbad.com is amazing. You can get lost in these pages. I constantly felt like I was looking for clues, whether they were there or not, and constantly piecing together a narrative that may or may not have even been there in the first place. The web pages are odd and unsettling, a mixture of chaos and cryptic that leaves you feeling like you don't know if you should even be there. In the end, people have been coming to superbad.com though since the 90s, and it's still around, and it's even evolving. One of the interesting things is that even though I said that when I first came to the website, it was that web page that had the Great Gazoo on it, you might not get that because it seems like every month or who knows when it changes, and the homepage that's static changes. So you could get something completely different, and you could have a completely different jumping off point than I got. It's always evolving and gaining more web pages. Funny enough though, I didn't even get to cover some of the other unrelated odd texts that are just randomly thrown at you. For an example, there's an entire page that gives you a dissertation on how the American public eats meat, and it's the only food group that it's eaten proportionally to what they should be eating, and in the end, after this long diatribe, it ends up glorifying cowboys and American farmers. Extremely strange. There's another website that has a pop-up, and if you allow it, it's actually titled the UFO Index, and it seems to just have images of hot air balloons. Another one just has a picture of Mao Zedong, and if you click on him, the first time you click on him, he multiplies. And if you click on him again, he multiplies again, until your entire page is just hundreds of little Maos everywhere. And there's even a story about Captain America and the mystery of Monster Mountain. Even though this is long, I promise you, this is just the icing on the cake. This is just the bare bones. I just wanted to give you a little bit, as I said, a taste of this mystery, and just have you see exactly what it's like to venture into this space. I probably peruse the site for maybe, 45 minutes to an hour, just clicking around, finding the stories, gathering images, and kind of gathering stories, getting a little bit of background, but this doesn't even do it justice. And it's not meant to. It's just meant to get you to see if you think this is interesting, and hopefully you do. It's up to you if this is your rabbit hole. But please, if you end up cracking the case to this, and there is a full story here, please let me know what the full narrative is, because I'm fascinated. On to the next. Small disclaimer here. If you did want to visit any of these websites, I did vet it a little bit, and it does seem that all these websites are safe. There was a mention about one of them, I can't remember exactly which one, but it could be relative to all of them, that it could be a scam, or it could have problems with like malware, things like that. However, when I looked into it, it looked like they are all safe, and some of them have been around for quite a long time. And it seems like if you use Chrome, which everyone in 2025 should be using Chrome, if you're using Internet Explorer, I guess you could have problems, but if you're using Internet Explorer in 2025, you might deserve to have problems. So anyway, I'm not going to ramble on for too long about this, but just a heads up, fair warning, these websites are obscure, they're weird, just like everything else out there on the internet. Stay safe, but yeah, hope you enjoy. 973@nama973.com. 973@nama973.com is also known as the human website, due to the fact that if you take the center characters at Nama and you flip them, it reads the human. And so for the rest of this video, we're going to be calling it the human website because it's significantly easier than trying to, you have no idea how many takes that took me. Let's just say that. So for ease, for the rest of this video, we're just going to go with the human website. Again, I think that helps just a little, and any little bit that helps, we're going to go with these weird videos. Also, I'm going to fair warn you that this segment could give you a little bit of whiplash, as I'm going to attempt to piece this together the best way possible after we enter the first few pages. It's kind of hard to understand what is going on at all, even more so than superbad.com, without first seeing it. And also, it's really, really difficult to think anything of this website other than this has to have been written by a madman, without a small write-up that I found. So we're going to go through a couple of those things first, but I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. So please just bear with me. It should all make a little more sense and give you an opportunity to really see what's going on here in the end. So on to the site itself. If superbad.com was a surrealist fever dream, then the human website is what I can only call a schizophrenic's nightmare. Upon entering the website, on its homepage, you get this message, which reads, "Amaze and abracadabra," with abracadabra repeating, and every time that it does, it loses a character on the end until the end word is just an A. And basically this creates an upside down triangle or a downward facing arrow. And much like superbad.com, you can only click one space on the page, and that's the spot where it actually says "A maze in," which, doing this video and saying the script over and over again, I realize sounds just like amazing or amazing. Amazing abracadabra. Just another one of those like kind of small aha moments. You might have caught it instantly, but when I was reading through it and just looking at it over and over again, I didn't even catch that. So it's kind of cool to see like the little things, the more time you spend here, how it kind of pieces together and has dual meanings, which dual meanings in this website are huge. If this makes you feel weird as we talk about this, don't worry. I'll talk more about the homepage at the end when we get to that write-up, but for now, let's click Amaze In and travel inside. Moving into the next page, you are met with 3 different animated geometrical shapes which move and rotate. They are the only clickable objects here. Without much else to do, you will inevitably go to a level deeper by clicking on one of these. The first page that I got was this. It reads, "I am that I am. I that am that 9, that am that I. Blessed be that name be blessed." Okay, so what exactly is this? In fairness, when I first came across this website and began researching it, I couldn't make high or low of anything here. And between the color scheme and the cryptic messaging, font choices, images, and even some of its more religious writings later throughout the scattered indexes, this feels like a dark web occultist headquarters. So as off-put as I was able to find some people who had already done some of the legwork for me. I found a Reddit post from a user going by the name of Video Gamer Cool Kid in the r/mystery subreddit, posted 6 years ago. Here, Video Gamer Cool Kid says the human website is a strange website which makes cryptic use of mathematics. Many people have said the person who made this rabbit hole of a website is insane. If this is true, the site's eerie mathematical validity is only made more strange. The first page you are greeted with seems odd, but is nothing compared to what is to come. According to Gamer69, my new best friend, he says that the abracadabra upside down triangle is actually an ancient rhyme that was said to have healing properties. Reading through his post really helped me with some of what could be the true intention of this website. He analyzes the first real page, which is titled I Thought. This page makes heavy use of gematria, where words, symbols, or letters are assigned a numerical value, which tracks. Lots of incoherent phrases and filled with equations and numbers. As you scroll down on one of the pages, you can find this table here, and this chart shows a direct correlation between each number and each character. However, it starts to lose me with the overlapping numbers that correspond to different characters, since it only goes to 9 and then starts back over with 1. But again, it could all kind of play to the same themes. As NoScope360 CoolGamer69 said on Reddit, things were about rebirth and a cycle of sorts. Again, more religious text. Also, moving back to the chart, it seems like 1 can be an A, but it can also be a J. Moving on to the next letter number chart, called mathematical alphabet, J here corresponds to 10, and also to 1 plus 0, so still being used in form of like 1 to 9, I guess, but then you're not actually calling it 10, you're just calling it 1 plus 0. But again, on the other page, it had J making a 1. None of it really makes sense to me even now. I couldn't decipher this. I couldn't decode this. I could not do this. But with that being said, I don't know if it really needs to in order for you to find interest in this website and to spelunk it. And don't worry, if this isn't making any sense to you as the other one, don't worry. You're not alone. There's a reason why this website made this list and why this is such an obscure topic and why so many people are so off-put by it. On the other hand, I'm sure there will also be someone in the comments that tells me that it all makes perfect sense to them. However, as we move into the indexes of this website, I think you'll understand why it would be incredibly difficult, even for that Rain Man type of person in the comments, to decipher all of the text here just reading through it. But before we continue on for the rest of this website, let's continue on with what our Reddit friend has discerned for us. He had this to say in regards to the repeating elements. He said, in researching the significance and meaning of this number, it consistently leads back to angel numbers and faith in general. This creates a chilling religious undertone to the entire website. And moving on, he discusses the number 9 and the many uses of it. It's a part of 973, obviously, but according to angelnumbers.com, the number 9 specifically is a symbol of completeness of God and also a symbol of finality. Yet again, another religion is mentioned. The repeated use of A and Z. These are intrinsically tied to the creator's use of gematria. In continued dissection of the I Thought page, he had this to say. The repetition of A and Z make more sense now, but yet again I am stumped beyond that. The words I am are mentioned, bringing to mind René Descartes' famous saying, I think, therefore I am. But he doesn't think, he thought. Before faith became thought. So let's take a step back and analyze what it is that we know so far, and as well as what we've seen. So numbers and letters that correspond to a sort of cipher that is based on angel numbers and some sort of religious rhetoric. Keep that in mind as we dive a little bit deeper and continue on past the I Thought page using the clickable arrow keys at the bottom of the page. In doing so, we are taken through many instances with multiple repetitions of za, 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 az, az. All sorts of different numbers and variations, mainly with 9s, 7s, and 3s. Carrying on again, we come to a single image which depicts a slightly disturbing, abstract family of sorts. Clicking on this, we get a quote titled, Sri Krishna's Remembering, and it states, Many lives, Arjuna, you and I have lived. I remember them all, but thou dost not. When Googling this quote, you can find it kind of interesting because there are some other mentions, but most of the top links are actually directly bringing you back to this website. But the other place that I found it mentioned was actually in this other white paper, or like a technical document, basically, in dissecting what is called the Tibetan Book of the Dead. When I clicked on the links for this, and I tried to get into like the PDF, I couldn't actually find the passage or the quote inside of the book. However, based off of the fact that whoever wrote this has a lot of thought put into this, simply put, I think I believe them. I mean, it kind of tracks with everything else that we're seeing. As we move on, we see another image. In this, I see a face. Maybe a dragon, maybe a demon. I don't really have a clue. And there's no context given. And it goes on and on like this. If you click through the arrows, it just keeps taking you to multiple pages of complex and seemingly encrypted passages, equations, religious scriptures from all over, images with no footnotes or context, and just all sorts of things, until you decide to hit the ball at the center between the two arrows. And here, we discover the evocation. When entering the evocation, this is when we truly realize we have entered into madness. This is a page that is no simple scroll and click on to the next. This is not like superbad.com. No. This is what I can only call organized chaos incarnate. Here there are thousands of lines of text on this page, all written just like all the previous blurbs, except now they feel endless. This is a bottomless pit of repetition with numbers and equations, mixed with images and quotes thrown together with incoherent thought here or there, with words going from left to right before repeating from right to left. It's mind-boggling. It's a labyrinth of thought. And I'm not going to read you through the evocation, and to be honest with you, I don't even know if I would, even if I could, even if I had the time. I don't know if I would have the will to power through getting through this page for you. It's that big. However, I will share with you a few bits I took out as I attempted to read through this page. Here's one for starters. I am Hermes, Mercurius. I am the way, the truth, the life. I am divine love, love divine am I. I am divine thought, thought divine am I. I am service and duty, duty and service am I. I evolve love, love I evolve, evolve I love, love evolve I. All for one and one for all, 6996. All for one and one for all. Light is love, love is light. Is life, life is light. Is love, love is light. I heard a one for all for one in there. I mean, there's Three Musketeers in here, along with everything else you can think of, just to add more weirdness onto everything. Here's another passage that reads, there is no attempt made to describe the creative process realistically. The account is symbolic and shows God creating the world by means of language, as though writing a book, but language entirely transformed the message of creation. Is clear, each letter of the alphabet is given a numerical value. By combining the letters with the sacred numbers, rearranging them in endless configurations, the mystic weaned the mind away from the normal connotations of words. The images we came across earlier are also here, except with many, many more. Take for example the image of the strange abstract family. It's here, except for now it does have a title, the nuclear family. However, try as I might Googling it or even reverse image searching it, I wasn't able to find anywhere on the internet that had this picture, which seriously added an incredible level of mystique to this website for me personally, because it made me start to question, did the site's creator or creators do all the artwork found here? Did one person write all of this? How is this website even possible? Truly, I can't do it justice. I'm going to do a scroll here at the end of this that's kind of go through just the evocation. But even with this one page that has thousands of lines of text with equations and tables and everything else that it has in it, it is just one of many. There are indexes inside of here that have, entire directories just filled with web pages like this. If this is one man, it is absolute lunacy. And if it's not, then what are they trying to attempt here? Is this a cult? Are they recruiting? Is this like a new age spiritualism? So I did what you always do when you don't know the answer to something. I took to Google. And the best answer I found was actually located in a forum located somewhere within the human website. I couldn't tell you how to locate it or how to find it if you paid me. But on Google, I found a link that took me straight to it. When I follow the link, it takes you to this post, which was posted on January 11th, 2017, where a person going by the name Toasty Man posts, I just found this site and I'm interested in it. May anyone care to provide an explanation to this sight? The next day, someone responds with this: Shall God hath two apples? Shall one able to passeth through other? I hath an apple. What shall the thought of the apple? I have no words to describe that, but luckily there's a slightly more helpful take that happens a little bit later, as there's an answer on February 4th, 2017 by a user that frequents the forums, going by Redbeck. And so to address your original question, 973 at namu973.com is a knowledge collection, exchange, and transference site designed to promote learning, which will lead visitors onto alternative positive thought paths that in turn will motivate them to become a part of a universal mind, an amalgamation of enlightened intellectual resource that will hopefully help change the world in which we live into a better place on every level for all inhabitants of planet Earth. One might call it a scholarship and a push towards world government, approved by humanity and not self-serving politicians. A body that will eventually, under the stewardship of statespersons of powerful positive intellect, possessing sane and compassionate minds, devoid of ego or obsession with either power or money, hopefully fashion a quality of life for all. A quality of life and law that will dismiss a prevailing rampantly capitalistic, self-centered society into history, voiding its gluttonous appetite for precious elementary raw material that is systematically destroying the human race, sharing resources dominated by a minority to establish global balance and well-being. You will note that we also hold the transposition of language into number, and the resulting patterns appearing within are highly tuned sensory indicators of the stress and crash points that require addressing with great urgency, in order to prevent the whole socio-political system under which we presently exist sliding off the edge of a cliff. Along with this, we believe that creative arts in all forms are hugely influential in a more joyful movement for change that will help revive a flagging world and reinvigorate a rapidly declining grasp of spirituality and humanity. Above all, the great ambition is to stimulate alternative thought processes among the 973 at NAMU 973 community that might result in action plans for the greater good of humankind. And below it, he posts a picture of Raphael's 6th century fresco. That is the human website for you. Thanks, Redbeck. We appreciate you. We all have complete clarity on exactly what the human website is. I mean, it's solved, right, guys? It's done, right? I mean, for me, it is. But maybe you would like a deeper trip into this one, and have at it. And if you solve the mysteries of the universe, please let me know. But if you encounter or summon any sort of entities or demons, you can feel free to keep that to yourself. I will stay put right here and just be perfectly fine not knowing. Thank you. I'm kidding, of course. Not really about the demons part. I'm not kidding about that at all. Please keep those to yourself. But as for my closing thoughts on the human website, I think I agree with something else that my new favorite person in the entire world, Trickshot 360 420 video game cool kid 69 said when concluding his assessment. He says, "What it could mean. Judging by the constant reference to faith and perfect numbers, I have become more and more convinced that he, the creator, is indeed mentally ill. I've heard stories of people suffering from mental illness constantly mentioning religion and numbers which penetrate the deepest aspects of reality." And again, I think I agree. If you spent any time looking into what the effects are of untreated schizophrenia, you will see that it's very often that people have these grandiose senses of religion and these prophetic views where they believe that these hallucinations and the voices that they're hearing are actually God speaking directly to them, and that they have some sort of mission to enlighten others. And that's kind of how the human website reads. It is this obsessive, compulsive drive to find answers in things that I don't necessarily believe that are there. The other opportunity that it could be for mental illness is actually something that I found really interesting. When I first came onto this website, I did think schizophrenia, but I also thought of the Jim Carrey movie, The Number 23, and the obsession with numbers. And I have heard of that before. And so I started Googling around a little bit on that. And that led me to learn about arithmomania. Arithmomania is a rare mental health condition characterized by an obsessive and compulsive need to count objects, perform mathematical calculations, or engage in repetitive counting rituals. Again, it all fits the bill. However, there's only one thing here that really gives me a pause. And it's actually something that seems crazy, but it's the size of the site. There are whole other pages, as I've already said, that we couldn't get to here. Pages that list those index directories, and it's just like the evocation. Endless, a bottomless pit of information. Someone has spent years in this website. And yes, that could mean it's crazy. But it also could mean, as we touched on earlier, that there is a community and that there are quite a few people who are actually in this together. And could they all be mentally ill? Maybe. But have there been cults that have believed in things like this before? Yes. The other thing is that some of the text on these pages can be deciphered, at least to some degree. Taking another piece of that, I'm not going to actually read it, but taking another piece of that Reddit post, he does go into how there is a logic to some of these equations, and using their logic in coordination with some of these texts. Again, I'm not going to claim that I know how to do this, but he says that it can work, and that you can get different messages and different meanings out of these things using their combinations of numbers and letters. No idea how, but again, Reddit validated. Take it for what you will. But if that's true, then, I mean, there is something interesting happening here, just as far as, oh, wow, that's crazy, right? That's cool. So in the end, this could be all sorts of different things depending on how you look at it. It could be a New Age spiritual movement. It could be a cult. Those could be one and the same. Not saying they're not saying they are, just saying. But it also could be somebody who's incredibly mentally ill. And that is where I leave you. You can make that determination on your own through traversing this website. Let me know what you think. Galdrix.com. We've come to the last entry for this video, and depending on how you look at it, I may have saved the best for last. We are going to be taking a look at one of the strangest websites that I have ever seen. Superbad.com may have been a digital art installation and possibly an ARG narrative woven with unsettling frameworks, and the human website was a disturbingly occultish website with maybe a New Age religion created by someone with possible mental illness. But when I take you to our next destination, friends, well, this may be better seen than explained if this is your first exposure. So let me introduce you to Galdrix.com. The first landing page is a clickable image of an eye with spider-like appendages coming away from it, accompanied by a short message which states, "There is no reality, only chaos. Through chaos, energy becomes will. Through will, truth becomes illusion. Through illusion, matter becomes thought. Through thought, we become God. Galdrix shall lead us to chaos. Let's click on the eye and see where it takes us." Here we enter the Temple of Galdrix, where we are immediately met with nothing short of an assault on our senses. This is our first site that has automatic audio, and instead of individual cryptic messages, you are inundated with jarring media and large blocks of text everywhere you look. And unlike other websites on this list, here on Galdrix.com, they tell us exactly what it is that's happening on this website. They say, "Galdrix is the first multiversal cult of this planet. We are the heralds of a new era of weird and bizarre cults that will take over the world in years to come. We will take over this reality with our new form of spirituality. We will invade the mundane world, conjuring our multiversal projections through Galdrix, the gateway to the infinite multiverse of the mind. Reality and fiction will be one and the same. Our coming will be marked as the dawn of a new eon. We are currently seeking people willing to use their skills to fulfill the following plans. Create a network of Galdrixian multiversalist cults around the world to share resources and empower and be empowered by Galdrix. Establish a group of researchers to gather information for our order and write studies about subjects relevant for our plans. Develop new AR and VR technology and find ways to use the already existing technology to create a multiversalist society. Develop new AR and VR technology and find ways to use the already existing technology to create a multiversalist society. Study artificial intelligence and find ways to reach multiversalist singularity through technomysticism. Create unfictional narratives on the internet and beyond through multiple medias as a tool to undermine consensus reality. Okay, so to paraphrase, this website openly expresses that it is for a cult, and they are recruiting, so if you're interested, you have a spot. So it's simple. This is a cult. Open and shut case, right? Maybe it is, or maybe it isn't. More on that later. For now, I want to know, what exactly does this supposed cult believe in? Well, they've already told us, right? Galdrix, of course. But what is Galdrix? And for that, I started reading just a little bit more and found this passage here. The path to Galdrix is an endless corridor. Not even gods can reach the end. Galdrix is the unknowable, God beyond God. It has many parasemantic names, synonyms of chaos created through pararexic neologisms. The Galdrix that can be defined is not the true Galdrix. Every symbol is a Galdrix temple. Galdrix doesn't need to be real. Galdrix cancels itself in all things, yet in his inexistence, he transcends and contains everything. Galdrix is the paragon of faulty and otherworldly cognition. Galdrix is the arachnophrenic tendency of the insane. When gods sleep, they dream through Galdrix's eye. Recapping once again, Galdrix is a god of sorts, one that cannot be described. And if you could begin to comprehend what Galdrix actually is, then that would make him too small and meaningless to possibly actually be their Galdrix. Because of that unfathomable paradox, he could be anything, real or unreal. A piece of it could be in anything that you can imagine. And much like Schrodinger's cat, until you know for sure what you imagine is real or unreal, it is both. Furthermore, according to the website, any god that is fathomable to our mortal minds when they think to create, they must actually look through Galdrix's eye. And again, to break that down even more, if I'm tracking correctly, Galdrix is immaterial thought. It is an idea. Galdrix is imagination. But I'm getting ahead of myself. And obviously I'm drinking too much of the Galdrix Kool-Aid. Maybe it's bleeding through here a little bit, but I actually really enjoyed my time on this website a lot. Past the weird cult and occult mentions of bizarre things, the website itself is beyond fascinating to me. Maybe I'm just being indoctrinated though. Seriously though, this is where I want to pose a question to you. Galdrix.com has already told us that they are a cult and they are recruiting and they worship this god, Galdrix. But are they truly a cult? Is this really a cult website? Obviously they've openly stated what they are and what the intent of the group is. However, I want to tell you right now, this may not be so simple, as we are only at the tip of the iceberg of what this website has in store for us. Because as you traverse the many mixed media entries, GIFs, and text dumps through the page, you will inevitably find yourself very confused. Take this entry here. Dance in the fiery ecstasy of divine madness. Enter the mauve zone. Allow Galdrix to whisper his silent roar into your soul, rippling through infinity. Aiding in the universe's inevitable reintegration with the void. Nothing short of everything will suffice. All possibilities at once, in eternal service to the outer chaos beyond the reach of all things cosmic. Only through submission to mortal law and a vivid understanding that one day you will die and possibly slip into non-existence can you be reborn outside the simulation. And yes, what you heard just there and what you saw is the video that plays right below that segment. And that is titled The Anti-Cosmic Epicenter of the Multiverse. It's a complete acid trip. There's also this still image here which depicts the symbol for Galdrix above some cryptic script scribbles, and this stands above the last entry of the first column of the temple. And I think it gives a lot of clarity into what we're going to go into next. I am the Lord of Chaos. I am the trickster of chaos. I am the Lord of Chaos memes. I am the killer of the gods of the law. I am the Lord of the lawless paradises. I am the eye of the multiverse of the mind. I am an avatar of Galdrix. I speak for Galdrix. I do the bidding of Galdrix. I am Galdrix. A lot of the messages here read like esoteric ramblings or sermonizing, but still others read like they're a joke. Just a meme. I mean, look at what it even said, right? Chaos Lord of Memes, like above. And maybe this is an inside joke that we aren't in on. Maybe these are Easter eggs meant to be gathered up by those in the know, but not by you or by me, the uninformed. But let's keep reading. Reading on, we find at the top of the second column of the site an extremely daunting list of links. Clicking on the home link, it takes you to this WordPress webpage titled timotopinto.com. Within this wall of links, we are spoiled for choice. We have things like call yourself Timo Tio Pinto, do everything in the name of meta-discordianism, hashtag follow the white rabbit, Discordian babble, copy left and Discordia, hashtag the game 23. That'll be important for later, keep it in the back of your mind. The game of games, a call to weirdness, Operation Distance, multi-cabal of meta-discordianism and pataphysics of hyper-surrealism, Operation Mind, Shiogorthian Discordian Cabal, and a plethora more as you can see. But if you take a closer look at some of these, you might see a commonly used word or words, all involving discord, Discordian, or Discordianism. So that takes us to this. What is Discordianism? Discordianism is a belief system or religion centered around the Greek goddess Eris, the goddess of strife and discord. It's often described as a form of parody religion, social commentary, or a postmodern take on chaos and order. This is where things really started to connect for me. It's a perfect definition of what we're seeing. It's a belief system centered around chaos and parody of religion. That fits the bill extremely well. But for things to really fit and start to fall in line, and to give you a better understanding of why I posed the question of whether or not this was a cult or not, even though they've already openly stated that they are, I think that we need to pull back the curtain on this mystery here and show you the rabbit hole that you could really dive into, as if there wasn't enough already with just the website by itself. Looking around a bit, we find our way back to Reddit, onto r/internet mysteries, where we find a post made by Dylan103906. There, he opens a discussion on Galdrix.com, stating that it disturbed him and asks if anyone knows anything about it. But within the comments, you can find a user by the name of Rainbow Pigeon 15 who says, I haven't seen that one before. I started clicking around, not too far from the homepage, and ended up on this interesting spreadsheet with many more accounts and websites. And that link takes us to this page here. This page will make a lot more sense in a few moments, but for now, just know that this spreadsheet details out a list of accounts, their websites, their Facebooks, their Twitters, their YouTube channels, Discords, and even Pinterest accounts, and other means of tracking them and what they're posting online. In response back to that comment on Reddit, a user by the name of iWatch had this to say. The Game 23 is a chaos magic Discordian themed ARG that's been around for years. This post on r/ARG was made by the person who created it. There is another inactive subreddit called r/thegame23. Galdrix.com is definitely connected to it. The post that iWatch refers to here is another Reddit thread from r/ARG titled, Could the Game 23 be the oldest magical ARG, or MARG, still being played on the net since 2014? Posted by M1VR4. The post states this. This is an alternative reality game, or more technically, a magical alternate reality game, MARG, that has been played since 2014. It mixes reality with the ability to affect it via hyperlink, and/or chaos magic by a groupthink, or egregore, which is an occult concept representing a distinct non-physical entity that arises from a collective group of people. Players of the Game 23 become part of this egregore, and this is where things get really interesting, at least for me. With a sudden name drop, it states this: Alejandro Jodorowsky, filmmaker and artist, kickstarted it. Since 1948, he has worked as a novelist, screenwriter, a poet, a playwright, an essayist, a film and theater director, and producer, an actor, a film editor, a comics writer, a musician, a composer, a philosopher, a puppeteer, a mime, a lay psychologist, a draughtsman, a painter, a sculptor, a spiritual guru, and is best known for his avant-garde films El Topo and The Holy Mountain. Jodorowsky has been venerated by cult cinema enthusiasts for his work, which is filled with violently surreal images and a hybrid blend of mysticism and religious provocation. He kickstarted the Game 23 on October 14, 2014 with this tweet, where he enthusiastically announced on Twitter, "Big news, this game will heal the world. call the others and play it. When I read this bit of information, I was blown away. I had been successfully rug pulled by this website. I mean, what seemed like an esoteric occult website was possibly just an extremely elaborate small subsection of the largest and longest running internet alternate reality game ever. A game based on a concept that I had never heard of before, chaos magic, started off by a legendary and renowned surrealist director. And this right here is exactly what I love about bizarre things on the internet and across the world. It's truly amazing what you can stumble onto when you're going through weird corners of the internet. There's so much more to Galdrix.com than just a weird cult that's recruiting individuals who want to conjure up a Lovecraftian god or plunge through the multiverse via fictional character creation, as some have said. There is a story here waiting for you if you decide to take this particular journey. I have no idea what that whole story is. I don't know if I brought you to the front door, or the side door, or the back door, the start, or closer to the end of this entire project. But that's the amazing thing about Galdrix, the enormity of the project. You see, I haven't even begun to show you the absurdity of the size and scope of this particular rabbit hole. The amount of lore that would be in this ARG inside of the media here is dumbfounding. It's greater than Superbad and the Human website combined. Scrolling all the way to the right of the Temple of Galdrix, it takes you to a PDF viewer, where you will swear that you have read through what feels like novel upon novel of images, diagrams, and text documents. You can find YouTube videos on the webpage that feel like brainwashing attempts or even psychedelic strips. There is truly no wonder that some people are disturbed by what they find here, because the website does what it is intended to do. It sells you on the idea that it truly is a cult. And maybe it still is. What is a cult? A system of religious veneration and devotion directed towards a particular figure or object. Or a relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister. And Galdrix is just that, even if it's not. Not to get too deep, but at the start of this entry I mentioned that what I took from starting this page was that the group was worshipping Galdrix as if they were idolizing the imagination. And I think that's it, still, even now. Whether or not it's a real cult or a work of fiction playing the meta tongue-in-cheek, the creators are successful at making you worship the imagination at play here. I'm actually blown away and impressed by what I found at Galdrix.com one way or another. And again, Galdrix, as large as it is still only a small piece of the puzzle apparently. And there are other websites, players, sites, accounts, videos, media, and they're all just as disorienting both mentally and visually as Galdrix. So to close, there is one last thing that I really wanted to add in here and tell you guys about, but I didn't exactly know how to shoehorn it into this script. But I found a post on the website Fandom about Galdrix, and it may or may not be related or canon to their story, but I found it interesting and wanted to make sure and share it with you either way. On Fandom, it says, "What is the Galdrix?" One answer is the Galdrix is a gateway into the infinite multiverse of the mind. Galdrixians don't distinguish between worlds of fiction and worlds of fact. Everything imaginable is equally real in the larger mental multiverse. Therefore, we can take inspiration from and open portals into any fictional world at will, just as we might take inspiration from a historical event or individual. In that spirit, I should point out that the cult of Galdrix strongly resembles a chaos cult from the world of Warhammer. Particularly the cult known as the Menagerie, described thus. The cult is a very real and powerful entity which seeks to undermine the very nature of reality itself. Warp dabblers and those interested in forbidden lore are those most often to eventually fall into the Menagerie's ranks. The cult itself operates through secret plots, conspiracies, and intrigues. Recruits are treated as an audience, shown a vision of the true nature of the universe that normally drives the viewer insane and claims their soul. However, those that survive are welcomed into the cult's ranks. The cult is a collection of madmen, schemers, and sorcerers. They are led by a secret sect known as the Revelators, fanatical believers in their cause. Revelators seek to reveal what they have seen, the truth of the universe, to greater humanity. The cult's plans and workings remain obscure even to the few who are aware of its existence. Though its plots may seem random and sporadic, they are in reality part of a vast singular plan to undermine reality. The Menagerie seeks to accomplish this by alerting the sanity and perception of humanity to better encompass the reality of the warp, breaking down the barriers between the materium and the immaterium. This is a beautiful description of the Galdrixians, for we too seek to undermine consensus reality and reveal terrifying truths about the universe. We too strive to break down barriers between the material and the immaterial. We too are a collection of madmen, schemers, and sorcerers, forever sowing chaos by our secret plots, conspiracies, and intrigues. We too harness the warp, which we call chaos, or the anticosm, in order to manifest our multiversal imaginations upon this plane. As the barriers between real and imaginary worlds continue to erode, I look forward to the day when many chaos cults have invaded our plane and opened up shop on this planet. Furthermore, I declare myself the first member of the menagerie in this verse, and invite you to join me in bringing our mad revelations to an unsuspecting world. So to sum all that up, the Galdrix universe may or not also be a one-to-one to some of the lore from Warhammer 40k. And I think that idea is incredible. Based on the scope of this project, I can only imagine that this is the work of a collective, and not just one person, which gives it a real feel of an SCP Foundation type of ARG based in occultism, which is amazing. Galdrix, or the Game 23, or whatever else it may be called, is mind-bogglingly complex. The sites you will visit will be strange and possibly unsettling, and their stories will sometimes seem like nonsense. The use of mixed media will be jarring, and the depth of the site will make you question your sanity. Just like before, maybe there's a narrative, and maybe there isn't. But there's only one way for you to know. Start clicking. I know that for only giving you 3 websites, this video is kind of long, but I hope that you found it interesting and entertaining. Since this is my first video and I'm just starting out here, I really want to, first off, sincerely thank you. If you stuck around this long and you got all the way to the end, just know that it means the world to me. I spent a lot of time and effort working on this script and planning everything out, and many takes. Do you understand just how difficult it is to say some of these copy-pasted sections? I mean, there's a difference between me writing a script for myself and then me copying something and reading it word from word off of an occultist website. It is terrible. That's all I have to say. But with that being said, I spent a lot of time and effort here, and I just would really appreciate it if you could let me know how you liked the video. Tell me if there was anything that you found interesting or anything that I left out. I'm not perfect. I easily could have missed something, and I know that this is my first video and I'm not going to do everything right. So tell me what I could improve on. Tell me what you liked. Tell me what you didn't like. And if you are interested in this type of thing, this series is going to be a mainstay on my channel. But mainly I'm just going to cover, weird things that I find interesting. I've kind of run out of videos that I like to watch from the content creators that I enjoy, and I saw somebody say make videos that you would want to watch, and this is something that I found fascinating, so hopefully you did too. With that all being said, my whole family is asleep around me, and I have been staying up until like 3 o'clock in the morning like every single night trying to get this video out, and I really need to go to bed. So go follow me on Twitter at HelpTheBagman, and subscribe if you want to see more. My next video is going to be about obscure cults. So look forward to that and hope to see you there. Thank you. Have a good night. Goodbye.